So I recently bought the track saw guide from Milescraft, First Impressions. It's a really good extruded aluminum product, anodized finish, well made, way better made than the Craig version as I was using. But I have a pretty decent saw, so I want to use this saw in a track instead of buying a really expensive track and saw. So I am putting this the way they recommend how to set up the guide for the track, and it's this blade spacer piece that we use, and it fits into a slot in the back underside of the guide, and then you put your saw blade up against that aluminum piece, and that is how it's set up. If we look over here, you'll see we have a space that is, I measured it with my vernier caliper, and it measures out at 1.875 on my setup with my saw. So what I don't like about this right now is when I clamp the saw down, it's going to be good for this time, but next time it could be different based on the size of the teeth on the blade and whether there's any flex in the blade. Plus, I can get some racking left or right here. I may not be straight inside this guide every single time. So here's my fix. Now that I have it set up so the blade of the saw is up against the saw blade spacer, I'm going to lock it up and out of the way and flip the entire assembly around so that we can see what's going on here. I've got a decent clamping surface, but it's not repeatable. I cannot put this saw blade on exactly in the same spot every time. So my fix is to cut two pieces of 2-inch wide by 1/4 thick aluminum and drill it for these bolt holes. And this way I can bolt them in with M5 bolts, which are a 5/16 head or an 8mm head, and they fit perfectly in the underside, and they fit perfectly in the track that holds down the end stops. So I'm going to bolt these down, and from now on, every time I put the saw in the track guide, I can butt it up against the aluminum, and it will be perfectly straight every single time, and in the exact space every single time. So I have installed the metal plates that I've made, the aluminum plates, bolted them in place. They're nice and tight. So every single time I put the saw into the saw guide, it's going to butt up against the plate on both ends, keeping it square and parallel all the way down, measured with my caliper. And the end stops are going to keep it in the correct position as well. The blade lines up perfectly with the edge of the track. Once it cuts it, it'll be perfect. It's clamped down really solid and it slides really well, but under load it could rack left and right. So Milescraft includes these little spacer wheels, or not wheels, but they're guides that fit into this end groove and screw to the saw guide. Give me a minute to install these. I'll be right back. So I've installed the guides that they supply, and as I can move them left and right to put them up against the edge of the track. So my intention was to put 2 up against the inboard side of the track and 2 up against the outboard side of the track, so it tracks down the guide perfectly square. However, if we look closely, let me tighten this up, there is very little contact area of this guide on the track, and it does not meet up on the inboard side at all. It's way too high when you bolt it in like that. So I am going to fix this. Let me show you how. Okay. So what I did was I used M5 flat washers, 4 of them at each of the guides, to space them lower into the guide. And now I have contact on the inboard edge on this roller and the last roller, or the first roller, and the 2 center guides are up against the outboard rail, so it's going to tract perfectly. And for those of you skeptical whether it slides nice or not, it slides really well. And I am way more impressed with this track guide than the Craig by a mile. There is no comparison. This comes in cheaper, even after I did all this modification, than the Craig guide.